You've got Brennan DeCandio on your left, Andrew Jessup on your right, number 10, number 32, respectively, here on the SCG Tour. They'll be given the green light, and we'll be underway here in just a moment. Oh, the sportsmanship. Love it, love it, love it. We will start off with a Toolcraft Exemplar. Things got very unsporting quickly. You're going to start the game like that.
Well, we had to wait until turn 2 before we sign, because if it's just a 1-1 for 1, that's, you know, that's okay.
You happy now?
Unsporting.
Yeah. Clue token, beatdowns, no fatal push here for DeCandio. He'll take 3. Jessup got another land. I got to assume he does. Deck plays so many. There is a concealed courtyard past that turn back. DeCandio will draw. He picks up a swamp, I believe.
I think he drew Fatal Push.
I couldn't tell. I didn't know if maybe he was holding the Fatal Push for something later. If he did have Fatal Push, I'd imagine he would just kill the Toolcraft Exemplar, but it is very likely that he either drew Swamp or Fatal Push, but he's going to play a Grimflaya and pass the turn back over to Andrew. Andrew will draw another copy of Concealed Courtyard. Here comes Toolcraft Exemplar. Will there be a trade? Remember, no first strike for the Exemplar until you control 3 or more artifacts. Another Concealed Courtyard. Now there's a Thalia. DeCandio will untap. And he will draw. Picked up a Traverse, has a Grasp of Darkness in his hand. Now, at this stage in the game, you can tell that he's using his life total as a resource. Could have traded there. Could have pushed if he didn't play the Grimflayer, so on and so forth.
I think with the removal in hand and given the value of a Grimflayer there, you want to take the hit, get yourself an opportunity to attack. With having a 1-mana answer in hand, that's a pretty big incentive there to take the hit, because you can get that caught up somewhere down the line.
It's Grasp of Darkness to take care of Thalia. Forest, Traverse. He'll search for a swamp. Here comes Grimflayer. Two different types in the graveyard right now here for Brennan. He's halfway home to Delirium. Jessup will shuffle his deck, and then we'll see Brennan trigger, most likely, the Grimflayer, because, yeah, Andrew's not going to block. So now here's the trigger. There's a Forest, at least 2 up there, and then a card in the middle, I think, which was Walking Ballista.
Yep, Walking Ballista, potentially a nice draw here, but it is also Delirium should DeCandio decide to mill it over. I'm guessing he has enough lands to function with at this point, so the question is just, do you put Walking Ballista as your top card and draw next turn, or put it in the graveyard, get to Delirium, and have a random draw next turn? I'm guessing at 14, you want the Ballista. I suspect you can afford to take the hit, and Ballista seems like such a good draw here.
I feel like he wants the Ballista. Now, one card that's interesting in his hand is a copy of Ob Nixilis, because I think, yeah, does he want to draw the 5th land? And it looks like he put that to the bottom and Walking Ballista on top.
I thought that he already had lands 4 and 5 in hand.
Sure.
If he only has the 4th land, then yes, I think drawing Walking Ballista and drawing the land makes a lot of sense.
Here come the beatdowns. DeCandio is going to fall down to 10. The follow-up here for Jessup is another Thalia. Now he'll play his 4th Concealed Courtyard and pass the turn back. Brennan will draw. Three different types in the graveyard right now. Just needs one more, does DeCandio. How does he want to use these resources? That's what's kind of interesting about this, because he does have some different lines of play he can make here. He can play Walking Ballista for 1, kill Toolcraft Exemplar, use Fatal Push to kill Thalia, come in with a Grimflayer, it's a 4-power creature, gets a trigger. He can play Walking Ballista for 2, but it would enter the battlefield tapped, so it's not a very good blocker. But then he has kind of Delirium at will by using the Walking Ballista to make the Grimflayer into a 4/4.
Yeah, I think there's something a little bit attractive here to me about just setting the Walking Ballista to 2 and passing, because you have on table terminate any creature and hit Delirium, and it would prevent Jessup potentially from making some attacks.
He's going to go Walking Ballista for 1, finish this off. Now he'll push, and now he'll serve.
And I think the incentive here to do this instead of, say, play Ballista for 2 and pass is that DeCandio's already committed to playing Ob Nixilis next turn and just wants the battlefield to be as clean as possible. If Jessup doesn't cooperate the next turn, doesn't make an attack that induces the Walking Ballista or allows a block with the Grim Flayer, then the battlefield is potentially a lot less clean for Ob Nixilis next turn.
There could also be some heavy interest in just getting the hit with Grim Flayer, and he kept all 3 cards on top, so he likes what he sees there. Yeah, as we head over to Jessup.
I believe it was another land and a Noxious Gearhulk among the cards.
Well, there's a lot to like about that. And Jessup does have a copy of Cut to Ribbons. And I think for his draw step, he may have found a Gideon ally of Zendikar, and the card in the middle is a Spire of Industry, which can provide any color because of that Max and VD Clue token. So now our Mardu Vehicles player has got a little bit to think about here.
Well, the concern you have to have with Gideon here is you play Gideon, you would presumably make a 2/2 and pass. And are you going to be able to protect this Gideon from the Grim Flayer? Seems very hard to do. I mean, you aren't even presenting enough on the battlefield to be able to trade with the Grim Flayer at that point. But you have to block with something, and then 1 removal spell, unless you're willing to double chump 1 removal spell and you lose the Gideon for very little.
Well, here is Gideon. And we will have a Knight ally here in just a moment. Because I don't see Andrew Jessup plussing or going to an emblem here. I'll say that.
The argument for plussing is now the Grim Flayer can't kill the Gideon, you get to do something next turn.
Sure.
I think that's still too mopey. It doesn't really accomplish anything. But I thought there was a chance he could go to 5.
Thump. Oh, wow. DeCandio's hand is awesome.
I mean, he set all 3 on top. He went set 2 on top, set 3 on top on his Grim Flayer hits.
Well, the card that, and this is not the first time we've seen him have so much success with this card, hits To the Slaughter.
And there's no way for Jessup to block in a way where he doesn't get blown out by this.
He gets absolutely ruined. He's going to lose everything. And now DeCandio will just pass the turn back. Fatal Push the draw.
I think you need to cast Cut here first, because you need to crack the clue. And to do that, you need to get the red spell out of your hand, so you're not messed up by the Spire of Industry no longer making red mana.
It's interesting, too, because he kind of wants to crack the clue to find some action, but he also wants to leave the clue because he has Fatal Push, and that can be a push for a 4 or less.
Sure, but he doesn't have that luxury now.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
not with Ob Nixilis here.
He's just got to find stuff to do. Although DeCandio can only go so low here. I mean, there is now a Ribbons in the graveyard. 9's a long way to go, but Unlicensed Disintegration and
various other chip shots that do exist in this deck.
Maybe an Avacyn sneaks through.
Yep. And what Jessup really wants right now is Scrap Heap Scrounger. That's fine, too. As it generally is. Make a 2/2. Fatal Push in hand. Time for Brennan to untap and draw. Can he overcome Gideon? You see the Noxious Gearhulk in hand. But it looks like land number 6 is a Blooming Marsh. It's going to go down. Kill that Knight ally. Manglehorn, Grim Flayer, 6th land, pass the turn back. And you are absolutely right about what he can and cannot do with this Ob Nixilis. Because I'm sure he would just like to keep sending the elevator up and draw as many cards as possible and bury him. But to do that, it costs life, and then Ribbons works its way into the equation.
Yeah, and I think at this point, DeCandio just needs to play 2 chump blockers because he can't afford to go down to 4 with Ribbons in the graveyard.
No, not at all. If I'm Brennan, I want to be at 6 or more.
Yep.
Maybe 7 or more is the number I want. Because we're gonna play some more. We're gonna play some more turns here. Yeah, there's a snap block. Yep. Has to, because Ribbon's in the graveyard. Ribbon's has been very impressive every time we've watched it. Here's a clue token on the way from Thraben Inspector. See if Andrew wants to crack now. He does. See if he can find something that matters. He's going to play a hub. That matters.
Hub is nice. He can now. It's a red source of mana that's not predicated on controlling artifacts, and any land here has some value with Ribbons in the graveyard.
Going up.
Yeah, the thing here, I think to get this game stable, DeCandio needs to find one of his explicit anti-planeswalker cards.
Yeah.
He's kind of in the abyss now because he can't take the hit with Ribbons in the graveyard. And, you know, what's the plan here? You guess Noxious Gearhulk and Chump Block, I guess? Like, it's getting...
Yeah, Gearhulk this and then Chump Block is just not... It's not attractive.
Ishkana would also be fine.
That'd be great.
Get a little bit of a cushion here.
It feels like he's also kind of on the hunt for Traverse.
Yeah.
Which also satisfies what he's looking to do. Gideon's going to go up. Yep, snap it off. Got a block. Shambling Vent's not a bad draw. That's a creature land and a mana for Ribbons. He's going to play and crack Vessel, Grimflayer, Forest, Tracker, Evolving Wilds. I think it's Tracker because he has a land. So he'll play Tracker, then land on the battlefield tapped, and I don't even know. It's got Ob Nixilis. I don't even know if he's supposed to use it.
Yeah, he goes from 10 to 9, and assuming that he chump blocks, he goes from 9 to 7 from the vent, and then I think that leaves just a mana away from finishing off the game. Cut to Ribbons has been all sorts of trouble for the green-black decks. That's been my one, in terms of pre-existing matchups that are going to incorporate some new cards, and what does that mean? Cut to Ribbons against green-black. The green-black decks have really struggled. A lot of marquee 4-toughness creatures that get killed by it, and then they don't gain a lot of life. They don't win the game very quickly. It's hard for them to interact with the graveyard. And I feel like we've seen this several times today, where the threat of Ribbons getting flashed back has caused all sorts of headaches for black-green player.
Yeah, both halves have been awesome.
Yeah, they've been really good.
There's another chump block. DeCandio's going to fall down to 7. Jessup will gain a little bit of life. His life total does not matter all that much right now. I think he'll play the Inspired Advantage. And now, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3. It's lethal.
He's got to answer the table and the graveyard.
And Vessel Nascency ain't a great way to do it.
So I guess the draw here is never to return. You get the Gideon, and then you get the out of the graveyard.
That's the best of the bunch. To the Slaughters late. That's interesting. A different split card's the best card to draw right now.
Yep.
Yeah. That's wild. There's Vessel. He continues to play on, so there must be something he can find here that we're missing. Liliana ain't it. Maybe he's just taking a look.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an out here, but
maybe he doesn't know it's there.
I mean, DeCandio's been chump blocking like someone who knows that it's in the graveyard.
Here's an attack with Gideon. There's To the Slaughter. Plains. There's your double black, yeah. Andrew is much too smart to forget this is in his graveyard. So I'm sure he's won so many games with that card thus far today. Andrew Jessup up a game here over Brennan DeCandio. Mardu Vehicles up a game over Black Green Delirium. But perhaps we should change the name to Mardu Cut to Ribbons, because every time we see this deck on camera, that card's playing a huge role.
And all the decks we cover play 1. Yeah. It's like perfect.
Yeah. It has been truly, truly incredible thus far, I gotta say. To the sideboards is where we are going to go here. We will start with Brennan DeCandio. 2 copies of Never to Return. Would have been very helpful to have one of those there in the sideboard. 2 Appetite for the Unnatural, 2 Liliana Death's Majesty, 2 Cletus Trader Get, 2 Yahenni's Expertise, 2 Lost Legacy, a Manglehorn, a Scarab Feast, and a Tireless Tracker.
I would expect the other copies of Never to Return, the Lilianas and the Cletuses to come in this matchup. I could see bringing in a second Manglehorn. DeCandio has 1 as a tutor target, basically, from Traverse the Open Wall. And for this matchup, I believe the second one could be justified.
Other side of things here for Andrew Jessup: 2 Nahiri the Harbinger, 2 Oath of Liliana, 2 Release the Gremlins, 2 Sorin Grim Nemesis, 2 Transgress the Mind, and he's got the 1-ofs in Anguish on Making, Magma Spray, Painful Truths, Fumigate, and yes, another cut to Ribbons.
We've seen this recipe before out of this strategy here with the Painful Truths, extra removal spells here, and cut to Ribbons, and Anguish on Making, some discard, the Planeswalkers in the top end. You can still preserve a little bit of your aggression. Certainly Scrounger facilitates that, but dig in and ready to play a much deeper game.
That's exactly where I think we are headed, is a much deeper, longer, robust game. And that game was pretty long, but again, Gideon flexing his muscles, showing why he is arguably the best card in Standard over the course of that game. Had to start chump blocking right away. Noxious Gearhulk and so many more cards were not able to get the job done against the powerful Planeswalker. That's why Brennan DeCandio will be on the play here for game number 2. In the meantime, let's talk about that StarCityGames.com, a YouTube page. You can subscribe today and become over 110. One of over 110,000 subscribers. So thank you guys very much for watching all of our awesome programs.
Well, you can subscribe today over at youtube.com/StarCityGames. A lot of content up on the page, archives of Split Second, Versus Series, Commander Versus, Magic Online playtesting, best of the SCG Tour, and much more. Again, you can subscribe today for free over at youtube.com/StarCityGames and get notified when new content is uploaded to the page.
More awesome programs coming down the pipeline too. I know Mini Masters isn't on there, but that's something we've been doing that I know a lot of people have been enjoying. And we're going to have more cool content on the way here. Now, in the meantime, take a moment here to learn a little bit more about the very reserved Andrew Jessup. I know we're going to talk to him about updating the player slide, saying that he can't beat Sudden Shock. I know that.
Yeah.
But he's not having trouble beating much else right now.
Bullet Point had reality smashed by Sudden Shock. Perception of reality as he knew it forever altered by Sudden Shock.
Lost game to having Quirion Ranger? No, Heritage Druid.
No,
Fire blasted on turn 2.
Yeah.
Lost.
He got it from every angle.
Only game I've lost in 3 months is that one. Because I don't think he's done much losing since then. I think he might be our 9-0 on top of things.
Well, he lost the other game we played in the
Likely
match.
story. Likely story. I think he's won an online PTQ, so he's going to be playing in Nashville. He top 8 at our last Legacy Open. He is going to be probably in top 8 contention of this one. Might be our 9-0. He's currently up a game in what I feel is a pretty good matchup for him. And he's just a really, really good Magic player right now. He's working his way, into his prime of his Magic career. And it just, the thing about him as I watch him play, unfazed by like everything.
Yeah.
There's no like tilt or anything at any point. It's just him just playing his game. Never gets too high after a win, never gets too low after a loss, just plays his game.
Yep. There's a professionalism and maturity about his demeanor that I think other 21-year-olds would be well served to notice and apply to perhaps this or other elements of their life.
DeCandio, I think, is going to be taking a look at 6 cards here in just a moment. Makes you wonder what the foil to this deck is going to be, this Mardu Vehicles deck. To me, as we're starting off this standard format, obviously this is release weekend with Amonkhet. Mardu Vehicles, obviously a great deck that's been brought over from the previous standard format. That's level 1. Where is the level 2 deck? Where is the level 3 deck? What's the deck that's the foil to this deck? Because this is the easy deck to sleeve up at the Pro Tour. You've got good cards. You got Heart of Kieran, Toolcraft Exemplar, and License Disintegration, Gideon. What's the hard deck to play? What's the deck that beats this deck, assuming there is one?
Well, I think the reactive cards in the new set are quite good. And I think there is a recipe there. And with a couple weeks of tuning, I think we're going to see more Torrential Gearhulks at the Pro Tour than we've seen thus far.
Because it's important to remember that last Pro Tour that we had were the top 6 decks from Mardu Vehicles.
Yep.
Which is crazy to think about. 2 other decks in there, but top 6 decks, 1 through 6, all Mardu vehicles. And players that I don't even put on decks like that, like Paulo Vitor Damarosa was playing Mardu vehicles. So we know it's good. Got to figure out if somebody can beat this thing. Thraben Inspector is where Jessup will start. For DeCandio, he started things off with a Blooming Marsh and a Vessel of Nascency. A Swamp and Vessel will be cracked here soon enough, I'm sure. In for 1 comes Jessup. Another copy of Concealed Courtyard. And Brennan will sacrifice the Vessel. It's a Fatal Push, a Kalitas, a Vessel, and a Liliana, the Last Hope. Might be DeCandio's only hope right now. He'll select that one. 3 cards for Delirium. Swamp. Liliana, slow down. The Thraben Inspector. Keep in mind, DeCandio does have a copy of Manglehorn in hand, so if Heart of Kiran does show up, got an answer to that. However, Mardu Vehicles generally sides out some number of that card in this matchup. We've seen players sideboard all of them out against Black-Green because they do have cards like Appetite for the Unnatural. Now they got Manglehorn and the Cycling Shatter as well.
And the game goes on for a long time, so you're likely to feel the legendary cost as well.
But that answers that question. Jessup's got at least 1 left. And this makes Manglehorn very attractive as we head back over Brennan's way. I think we might see Brennan traverse for a land. Traverse showing its versatility. He'll get a Swamp. I believe this is also going to turn on Delirium for him. He's got Enchantment, Instant, Creature, and now Sorcery. And now Sir Manglesworth will take care of the Heart of Kiran. Liliana's going to go up. And it's a great start here of this game for Brennan. Push will take care of the beast.
Yeah, Revolt enabled.
Yeah. And now is the time for Gideon. Ah, yes, you've been put to the test. Does DeCandio have a clean answer to Standard's best card?
Land number 5 gets into Ishkana. I think that hand now is a Grasp, a Gear Hulk, an Ishkana,
and a push.
Yep.
What it is bad against Gideon. He really needed that 5th land. Still does. Now the question is, all right, what am I going to do with Liliana? I can minus this, get back Kalitas, play that pass. There are worse turns. 1 is a Swamp, 2 is a, ugh, boy.
Stings.
And there's no guarantee this thing lives, especially with how Andrew 75 is built. Cut kills it. Another reason that card's awesome. Obviously, Unlicensed Disintegration kills it. He's already reaching for mana. Three mana. Painful Truths. He's only going to be doing it for 2. Because right now, the hub is his only source of red. Plains. Use the red. I think it's going to be a cut.
It's a nice looking turn.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Beatdowns. Liliana down. And Jessup very far ahead. And oh, by the way, Ribbons in the graveyard. DeCandio, all right. That was big. That's land 5 for Ishkana. Needed it. Had to have it.
It's a starting point. It's a degree of stabilization.
3 spiders. I'm sure he'd like that 4th spider he was handed. Don't get that one. Fatal Push. Another copy of Gideon right now in Andrew Jessup's hand. A couple of cards he's shuffling through. Remember, he did just resolve a Painful Truths. Gideon going up. Well, this will probably kick a spider out. Let's see what the follow-up is. Oath of Liliana. That'll take care of that.
Not ideal.
Well, Oath is interesting in this matchup because it's so much about card advantage that you'll take your 2/2 zombie.
And also, DeCandio does just tap out for a big body every now and again. Noxious Gearhulk, Cletus, whatever. This is just not the best spot.
Not the best spot. I agree with that. You know, enough Planeswalkers in Andrew's deck. After Cyborg, Gideons, and Nahiris, and so on and so forth. You'll get a 2/2 zombie occasionally. Now there's a Grasp of Darkness. Perhaps a Fatal Push. Yep. I can see the thought process here of I got to start trying to kill this thing.
Yep. And if Jessup needs to pivot and start making some tokens to protect the Gideon, that's also fine.
Push will take care of Grimflayer. This is interesting now because if I'm Andrew, I might be thinking plus get you to 9, start working you into Ribbon's range.
I think his hand right now is just 2 more copies of Gideon and a land, so you might see an attack, knock DeCandio down to 9, play another fresh Gideon,
make
get a token, get a token off of Oath of Liliana. Then you gum up the works, and then maybe you get to the point where Ribbons finishes out the game.
New Gideon. Make a 2/2. Don't miss that zombie trigger. That zombie would be real helpful right now. Of course he's not going to miss it. Draw a card. All right, well, DeCandio has land 6 for Noxious Gearhulk #1, and he's got to start moving this direction. Figure out if he wants to kill zombie or Knight Ally. Anything going to matter? That's what he's thinking right now.
It potentially matters if Jessup has the new Liliana and can get to the ultimate. And he shrewdly takes the zombie out as a result.
Ishkana gonna knock Gideon down to 1. DeCandio out of cards and trying to hang on. And Jessup will draw. A Gideon and a mystery card here for Andrew. I think he may have picked up a copy of Ether Hub, but that's what he's working with right now.
I mean, he still has access to the line that we saw last turn, which attack with Gideon, probably get a spider for your trouble, play the new Gideon, make a token. The DeCandio does not have an attack that allows him to get the Gideon off the battlefield. And then you can untap and attack with your Gideon again. And attacking with Gideon against Ishkana and Noxious Gearhulk is a good spot.
Yep. But much like the last game, this Ribbons is looming over this entire game.
Yep.
And so now, Brennan has to tailor his play around the whole thing. He can't just say, I'm going to use my life total as a resource. Sure, I'll go to 6. Can't really burn me out. Well, we know that's not true. Other Gideon? Okay. So that's another Knight Ally, another zombie. Playing the cycling land.
Yeah, I think the logic here is a land is probably better than a random draw at this point because of Ribbons. He has some draws that are great, but he also has a bunch of creatures that don't really matter very much. And so I think a land is better on the balance.
Now, if you're Brennan, how do you want to attack this turn? Looks like we're going to get that question answered. He's thinking both.
I mean, Jessup gets a pretty easy block here, which is just double up on the Noxious Gearhulk with some 2/2s and let the Ishkana come across. And DeCandio was empty-handed, so he just drew a random card. There wasn't some setup here over the course of several turns, so Jessup can decide right now if he wants to chump block the Gideon or not. but I would have to imagine we're going to see, sorry, if he wants to chump block the Ishkana or not, but I would have to imagine we're going to see a double block on the Noxious Gearhulk.
Remember, Jessup is empty-handed right now as well. What's also kind of interesting about this,
right? Triple up on the Noxious Gearhulk.
Well, he could just let him kill it.
Kill the Gideon?
Yeah. He's got 3 creatures. He can just attack him back for 6.
Well, one of the easiest ways to justify this attack, I think, is if DeCandio drew another Ishkana.
Yeah. Or Traverse.
Right.
Yep.
And then, so you have Ishkana and Traverse that'll do this.
Ooh.
Okay.
What do you draw? Ooh.
Yep.
Okay. He drew Traverse. You mentioned Ishkana. He's pulled Kalidas forward. But I think this is safer.
Yeah, Ishkana, sorry, getting Kalidas is so dangerous. If he rips a removal spell for it, you're just out of it.
You're basically done.
Yeah.
Where is Jessup going to go now? Scrap Heap Scrounger, not good on this battlefield.
No, it's not the. It is not the worst, because if Noxious Gearhulk wants to attack, you have a double block. If Ishkana wants to hang back on defense, what other attacks does DeCandio really have here?
Not a ton. I mean, he's not going to attack at all. So now we're going to do a little bit of draw go action between these two players, at least for right now. He just plays a Hissing Quagmire. We'll see what Jessup is able to pick up. Both players have big draws in this spot. Another Scrap Heap Scrounger. DeCandio. He'll pass. It's funny, this little split card battle is a really big deal because DeCandio really wants his split card, his Aftermath card.
And it's possible that it's an incentive here for Jessup to just fire away the ribbons preemptively.
Just to get what he can?
Just to get what he can, and maybe draw to another copy of Cut Ribbons down the line if he can get them low enough in that set.
It's an interesting thought. It is.
I don't know, there's a lot of ways it could shake out.
Yeah, because it makes sense, right? You know that DeCandio has never to return.
Because you're gonna die to the Ishkana activation here before you're going to make enough land drops to kill with ribbons, even if you stat your deck.
Sure. Push in hand here for Jessup. Looks like he drew another Gideon.
So he's got 5 creatures on the battlefield again, and if you use and there's a creature land. If he uses a removal spell here, it goes to 5 to 4. And I mean, an emblem here is not shabby. It makes your Scroungers large enough that they trade with a Gearhulk. You're also going to get a chump blocker on the way back for your trouble.
We're going to see 2 of the Slaughter here in just a moment. It's not going to be that great. He's going to sacrifice a Scrounger. Just wants to make sure he's got plenty of ammo. So yeah, Gideon and Scrounger down, which means this just kills a Gideon. DeCandio will draw. Okay.
It's a big one.
All right. Finally has it. Never to return. So he's going to kill something.
Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. More importantly, get that stupid Cut Ribbons out of here. Tired of that thing.
There we go.
Yep.
Now DeCandio is solidly ahead.
Strictly better than Ruinous Path.
Yeah, it's just different. They're different cards. They're all different cards. Cards are different.
They're all pretty different, yes. Finally drawn that thing. Now keep in mind, DeCandio has 4 copies of this card. They're out of 75. He feels very strongly about this card. Now, he's not out of the woods yet. There's a Concealed Courtyard. But he's starting to turn things around a little bit. Play the Hissing Quagmire, pass the turn back. Heart of Karen.
See, that's the. I think maybe Jessup last turn was supposed to fire off the Cut Ribbons. I know that it looks bad because of, DeCandio just drew the perfect answer for it. But I think it would have got him into a range where Unlicensed Disintegration was lethal. And there's no way this game is playing out in such a way where you just make your land drops
over and over
and kill him in 1 shot.
Yeah. It's a lot to ask. Cycling the land. Look, that's Canyon Slur. Gonna crew up here, maybe? Kind of attack. Jessup's reaching. What kind of attacks are we thinking?
Remember, Hissing Quagmires are down too, so.
Maybe just surveying the battlefield. Heart of Kieran, another copy here in Andrew Jessup's hand. He just kind of dropped it in his lap. Don't know if DeCandio saw that or not. Just going to pass, activate the spider. Jessup's down to 8. Draw a card. I think that may have been Traverse. Now I know it is. What does he want now? It's not bad.
Yeah, Ballista. It's a lot of cover on the battlefield, and I think sets him up just to burn out next turn.
Yep, because he can play this for 4. So that puts Jessup as at a virtual 4. He can start adding more counters to the Ballista. So this is a...
Still has the Ishkana to activate.
Yeah, that's a pretty good insurance policy. Here is Ballista. 4/4. Pass. This is a heck of a game.
Yeah, DeCandio mulligan, missed land drops. Jessup was on the play and had Gideon on time.
Yeah.
And now we've gotten here.
Grasp, gonna play a land. He has to wait 1 more turn to kill him. The Ishkana activation would be for 3, and then +4 from the Walking Ballista, 7, not quite 8. Is it time for the Hail Mary?
Well, you're not getting another turn, so.
Yeah. Very true.
If you're going to go through the motions, you might as well do it now.
Clock becoming a factor, that's for sure. Okay. Soren. Got a minus on Ishkana, which is nice because that's gaining him some life. Now I think DeCandio has a Grasp of Darkness in hand. We could see some weird Grasp of Darkness
and shoot with a Ballista.
Yep.
And he still has enough mana left over.
No, we're not going to.
Okay.
It was a line available. And now this starts opening itself into the equation.
I mean, it makes me nervous to let him gain that amount of life.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Now here's the backup heart of Kieran. This is going to put Andrew Jessup empty-handed. And he's going to get a zombie there from the Oath. 2 counters, pass.
I mean, DeCandio's position still looks pretty solid.
I think I'm not in love. I think it's fine. I guess because there's no ribbons in the graveyard, he is not under an obscene amount of duress. Noxious Gearhawk, oh yeah. Where are you going? Where do you think you're going? At Jessup.
Yeah, I mean, it requires 2 blockers, and it's a little rough because of the Ballista. And Jessup has to block because he will just die otherwise.
It's a good attack. DeCandio's sharp with this deck.
Yeah, so much of this is just what's happening on the table. Can you get through the combat math the right way? And So Jessup basically has two options here. One is just double chump block, put 2 in front with the intent of the Ballista shooting down 1, or put everything he possibly can in front and saying, do whatever it is you're going to do, and try to get the Gear Hulk off the table. I think this block makes more sense.
I like this block a lot more. Kill one of these. Damage, kill the other one. Finish off Sorin with a counter. Now he has a spell in his hand. I was trying to figure out which one it is.
I think it was Grimflare.
Yep. Put 2 counters, play Grimflare, pass.
I think DeCandio's on the verge of tying this up and going to 3.
Yep. Time to crew. Yeah, he's got Heart of Karen in a, like, he can do enough to deal with it with chump blocking, or if he wants to kill it to where it's not really a relevant card right now. Here's Thalia, which isn't terribly relevant. If he wants to handle it, he can. He's going to finish off Heart of Karen now with the Walking Ballista. Walking Ballista just gets to be this walking machine gun now because he's got so much mana.
And now DeCandio can just move into combat, attack with the Noxious Gear Hulk. If Jessup doesn't block, he risks just getting killed over at turn 2. If he double blocks, DeCandio can spend his mana getting rid of one of the blocker. So
this is DeCandio's way. He just drew another copy of Never to Return, which is not bad. It's nowhere near as good as the first one, but this is going to take care of Thalia. Yeah, this is what I kind of like, is he's kind of opened himself up to the option of doing this. Because now I think if you're Brennan, you just want to clear out the battlefield so that you can start attacking with whatever you want. So you're kind of, just whittling things away. And if memory serves, Jessup is through all 4 Gideons this game.
at least 3.
Yeah, we know he's through 3 of them. Now DeCandio still got to be careful. Three-man Inspector, sack the clue right away, draw a card. Another three-man Inspector, sack the clue right away, draw a card. Those three-man Inspectors are not inconsequential. Four mana, Nahiri. That's done. That's exiled. So solid enough cards to get to something that matters. Now Scrapheap Scrounger's looking, saying, what can I do?
And remember that Jessup still has tools in his deck to burn out from here. He has Cut to Ribbons. Yeah, I believe he has another copy of Sorin.
Mm-hmm. Unlicensed Disintegration.
Yep.
It all counts. He'll take his zombie from his Nahiri, so long as he didn't forget the trigger. And he didn't. Now he'll just pass.
Jessup here starting to build up a board that can go wide.
Mm-hmm.
If he can answer the Walking Ballista,
Things just changed again.
Getting harder.
Yep. Put a counter right away on the Walking Ballista, which I like. I also like his Walking Ballista management. Why would I wait? Just put a counter on it now. I ain't got anything else to do.
I mean, for everything that DeCandio has done in the last 7 turns or whatever it's been, it feels like Jessup is still, it's within the range. There's a sequence of draws that can still get him this one.
There's a basic mountain, pass the turn back. DeCandio's going to untap.
Attention Magic players, this is the final
Vessel.
reminder of the night. If you are planning
Just
to play
lands.
a classic
Take the
tomorrow
untapped
morning,
one, I think.
registration for those will be open.
Yeah, because that's an 8th land, so you can double activate.
It will save you and us sometime in the morning if you can register tonight over at Side Events.
Grim Flayer, feeling a little frisky. That's going to be exiled, which means that Brennan's going to get a zombie. He'll also get to take a look with Grim Flayer hitting. Looks like Jessup has fallen down to 6. Almost in burnouts. It's interesting. We had early in the game DeCandio trying to burn out. Excuse me, Jessup trying to burn out DeCandio. Now it's the other way around. And Brennan DeCandio comes all the way back to tie it up. Black-green Delirium. Marty Vehicle's going to go to a third and final game, though I'm not sure we're going to get to see all of it.
And, you know, that game, really back and forth, really good Magic getting played. And to me, still that decision of, is Jessup supposed to kind of preemptively fire off the flashback on ribbons there to prevent it getting stripped out of the graveyard, but never to return? Really interesting decision point.
It's a tough thing. It's tough, especially if you know that your opponent has so many copies of Never to Return. Now, we don't know how many, we don't know what information Andrew is working with. We know exactly what Brennan's working with. He's got 2 main, 2 board. He feels very strongly about this card. He's got 4 through 75. And now all of a sudden, these Aftermath cards, they're looking a lot better than maybe we thought.
Given how tight that game was, if Jessup fired it off a little bit earlier, he would have, I think there were several turns there at the end where he would have been drawing to Unlicensed Disintegration to win the game. He might have been drawing to his other copy of Cut Ribbons as well.
What makes it interesting, too, is it's...
Because he got pretty close even without the 6 or 7 points of damage that card would have been.
Yeah.
He got close.
I think what kind of makes it a little bit interesting, too, is it might change the way that DeCandio plays the game. He might slow up. He might not get as aggressive with what he was doing with Noxious Gearhulk or any of the other things he was doing, which means more draw steps for Jessup.
Yeah.
You know? Maybe the game prolongs itself even more.
But I mean, if he finds one more land, then he gets to cut to ribbons for 8, and then Unlicensed Disintegration is definitely lethal instead of maybe lethal. So it's all tricky. But I was feeling nervous the whole time from Jessup's side of I think you're just supposed to cast the ribbons here for a number and not expose yourself to Never to Return.
Quick talk about our friend of the Creature Collection's Fleecekeeper, available now in Playmat Sleeves and Player bundles. Starting on May 1st, it'll be Imperious Perfect, but for now, if you're looking for Fleecekeeper and Playmat Sleeves and Player bundles, go to StarCityGames.com/Creature Collection. Check out all of our members of the Creature Collection over there. Game number 3. If these players take a look at their opening hands, they're obviously going to play pretty quickly here. So we'll try to keep up with the Heart of Kirin here from Andrew Jessup. They kept their 7 cards. For DeCandio, he's got a Hissing Quagmire and a Blooming Marsh. 3 minutes left. It's a swamp here for Jessup. That's a Scrap Heap Scrounger. Crew, attack, dead via Grasp of Darkness.
It's tough in this spot too because Jessup's sideboard plan is definitely not conducive to winning a game in 2.5 minutes plus extra turns.
Blooming Marsh. Now, when you are in a time crunch like this, the decisions are a lot more interesting because here's a Walking Ballista just for 1. There is a chance in a normal game that we might just see Brennan say, you know what, okay, I'm going to cast Never on your Scrap Heap Scrounger with the intentions of returning it, but now I might want to save this for the Gideon that could cheese me out in this 2-minute game. There's Oath. Shoot you for 1. DeCandio will draw.
And I like casting Oath there because DeCandio has token generation. When you are guaranteed to get a card, just do it.
Yep. You're just trying to exchange back and forth.
And also getting the Oath on the table as soon as possible means your Planeswalkers are also more impactful.
Traverse twice. Searches for a land, and now he's got Delirium. So there's Ishkana. In for 3. The follow-up is another Scrap Heap Scrounger. DeCandio's going to untap and draw here. Picked up a To the Slaughter. Here's Ishkana, a bunch of spiders. Pass the turn back. Unlicensed Disintegration is going to take care of that. Now here's an attack. We'll see a triple block, which means DeCandio will lose a spider. Pass the turn back. Brennan will draw. Tireless Tracker is what he'll play. Now he'll play a land, he'll get a clue. You see the accelerated pace, they're trying to finish. The plays might be suboptimal because they are trying to finish.
But if Jessup doesn't make his land drops here, he really can't get his gloves up.
Yep.
He's only got the Scrounger, and that's offense only.
Michael Winger, your modern match.
Cut. We'll take care of tracker. DeCandio will draw a card.
Michael Winger to table 3-6.
He's untapping. He's drawing. Another copy of Tireless Tracker. There is a tracker. Here's a clue. He'll pass the turn back. Jessup's going to be turn 0 of extra turns. Brennan will be turns 1, 3, and 5. This is another copy of Cuts. Shambling Vents. They'll sacrifice and draw a card on the end step. Will DeCandio off the clue. Turn 1 goes to Brennan. Players will slow down and take a breath now. There's Manglehorn. That counts for something.
I mean, does DeCandio even have a draw that kills in 3 turns? With Jessup at 19, 17.
Start for 19, 17. Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 3. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially if Gideon comes down because he has 2 the slaughter. He's going to show all this removal. Look, you got to finish the game, man. You can show me as much removal as you want. You got to finish the game.
Jessup does not seem like the kind of person inclined to give it up here. Oh, and he gets a chump blocker too because of the oath.
Okay, that's all well and good. I mean, he's got 2 the slaughter plus a removal spell, so he can keep right on attacking.
But that gets him to 10, and then 3.
Modern players.
Not 0.
Yeah?
Scott Benson and Kyle Huckabee. Scott Benson.
You know, if he has the ability to flash back, never to return this turn, gets an extra token for his trouble, then the clue, a creature to land, you can make up the point. But
Hey, no argument that Brennan's hand is very good. Would never argue otherwise.
if we got to turn 7,
Yep, he would win.
this would be not an issue. And do you think Andrew Jessup gives a damn about DeCandio's hand in this spot?
No.
You got 2 turns.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you're going to do it.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're a 10.
And I think Jessup has a Nahiri in hand, and if you get rid of the Tireless Tracker, you're covered.
He just drew a Gideon. There is Nahiri. You can get rid of the tracker, also make a zombie. Yep. It was a good match.
This was good.
Another copy to the slaughter. Jeez. Yeah, DeCandio would win this one pretty easy. It's tough.
Yeah.
But hey, clock management's all part of it. It's all part of it.
And DeCandio also took a fairly conservative lineup spots in game number 2.
He did, yeah. The clock is all part of it when you're playing competitive Magic. He's going to show Grim Flare and everything else he's got, but that's going to do it for turns. Maybe there'll be concession, maybe there won't be. I don't know. I'm not going to stay to watch. Find out. Here's what we know. One of these players is going to be 9. A player might be 9-0 and 8-1, or they'll be both 8-0 and 1. They are both in good shape for tomorrow. That's what we can tell you. That's what we can tell you.
There we go.